Thank you very much. Good afternoon and welcome to this Cabinet, which will be the last Cabinet meeting of 2025. Start off with apologies for absence.
I have apologies from Councillor David Ellis as he phoned this morning to say he was ill and asked if I would seek contributions for the Christmas jumper appeal. And so there's a bucket.
I didn't congratulate people on their very festive appearance this afternoon. So for benefit of anybody watching, we are in spirit. Thank you. Right, and apologies from Councillor Clark, who is not here, hence why I'm chairing this afternoon. Thank you very much. So to approve as a correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 19th of November and the 26th of November. Can I move those? Somebody second them? Are they agreed? Both sets? Thank you very much indeed. Declarations of interest. I'll start with a declaration of interest on item 5, as one of the projects that was submitted is in Gedling ward.
Thank you, Chair. Same for me, it's in our ward.
Thank you.
Yeah, and same for me as it refers to the Woodthorpe ward, which I'm the local council.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Same again, because it refers to the Red Hill ward. Thank you.
I'm not sure it is a declaration of interest. It's a possible overall declaration of interest in that I'm very aware that we define so much by ward or even county division, and I'm quite concerned that post-LGR, when the boundaries are even bigger, it will be even more necessary to start analysing things by the super output areas instead. And I wondered if that's a general comment that could be made across all reports, and particularly in terms of applications for funding.
Thank you, Marge. I'm sure we'll make a note of that. And it is important because some areas which are smaller are swamped by more affluent areas, and they don't show up on the figures as well. But we know they're there, and clearly the people that live there know we're there. So it's important consideration. Thanks very much. Right. Item 4 is the forward plan. We're just asked to note this. There's a considerable amount coming up over 2026, so can we note all that activity? I'll propose that we note that. Everybody agreed? Thank you very much. So we move to item 5, which is the Community Infrastructure Levy for non-parish funding. The schedule, the projects and assessments for proposed funding allocations. And I'm assuming, Lewis, you're the man for this one. Thank you.
I am. Thank you, Deputy Leader. The report starting on page 19 of the agenda pack provides a detailed breakdown of the SIL non-parish neighbourhood receipts, which have been collected through the Community Infrastructure Levy, and an assessment of infrastructure projects which have been nominated for the SIL non-parish neighbourhood funding. Regulation 59A of the Community Infrastructure Levy requires local authorities to expend 15% of all SIL receipts which are not collected within a local parish area on local community infrastructure projects. Since the Council adopted the SIL in 2015, just under £1 million has been collected through the SIL receipts within non-parished areas of the Borough, which must be used to fund local projects. Since adoption, the Council has awarded approximately £920,000 to suitable projects within the non-parished areas and have approximately £50,000 to date remaining to allocate to projects in compliance with Regulation 59A. Details of the previously successful projects and a breakdown of the SIL non-parish receipts can be found on pages 42 and 43 of your agenda packs respectively. During the period September 2024 to August 2025, 3 new projects were nominated for considerations to their suitability for the SIL non-parish funding awards, specifically LIS 3, the All Hallows Church, LIS 4, the Oncombe Park project, and LIS 5, the Good Shepherd Church. 2 projects were also retained on the local infrastructure list, LIS 1, the Lamley Village Cricket Club, and LIS 2, Mapley All Stars. And that means there are a total of 5 projects for consideration on this year's infrastructure list. All of the projects located on the local infrastructure list have been assessed and detailed within section 4 of the local infrastructure schedule, project assessments and proposed funding allocations document, which commences on page 46 of your packs. And after careful consideration against the SIL regulations and the Gedling Borough Council's SIL neighbourhood portion guidance note, it is recommended that the most suitable project for the SIL non-parish neighbourhood funding at this time is LIS4, the Oncombe Park Green refurbishment project. It should be noted that the Council's PASS team are still investigating other potential sources of funding for this project through either the Carlton Town Fund or a FCC Communities bid. And if alternative sources of funding are obtained, an update will be provided to Cabinet as part of the second report later next year. It is therefore recommended that a 4-week public consultation is commenced early next year to seek local residents and stakeholders' views on the recommendations set out on page 58 of the local infrastructure allocations document. All representations will then be taken into account before a final recommendation of which, if any, projects should be awarded SIL non-parish neighbourhood funding is brought back before Cabinet in spring-summer next year. The recommendation is therefore that the projects included on the local infrastructure schedule and their relative recommendations are subject to a 4-week public consultation to seek local resident and stakeholder views and other projects which might be suitable for SIL non-parish neighbourhood funding. Thank you for your time and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Lewis, for that work once again. It doesn't seem a year since we're looking at projects again. Can I just clarify? You talked about 5 projects going forward for consultation, but you're saying remove 2. So do the 2 that you are asking to be removed, do they come away and just the other 3 go for consultation, or do they all go for consultation?
So they would all go out to public consultation. The recommendation is that those 2 projects aren't quite suitable at this time based on the information provided. And the recommendation that people will be commenting on is that they will be removed from the local infrastructure list.
Right.
The final decision will be brought back. Exactly so, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions, comments? Yes. Viv.
Yes, thank you very much for the report. Thank you for all the hard work that's gone into that. And it's really good news to hear about Oncombe Park, because we know that that's one of the areas that we would like to see improvements. Just for clarity, clearly in terms of the Good Shepherd Church, as we know, churches now are very much integral to communities, and I know that the centre attached to it is. So in terms of how it complies with Regulation 59F, what sort of things had you looked for in terms of that? Because I think you were implying there wasn't enough information.
Yeah, so in terms of the infrastructure and the way it's assessed against the regulations stipulate that it must meet a need created by new development in the area being, in this case, the non-parished areas of Gedling. So in terms of the refurbishment works and the repairs, it's difficult at this time based on the information that was provided to justify how that meets a need created by new development in the area. If it was going to sort of create an enlargement or enhance the facilities the church provides, I think that justification could be made. But based on just repair works, it's quite difficult to link the two between the SIL regulations.
Okay. Will they be informed of that in terms of...
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they will be informed of that. Because when you look at developments, I suppose when you're looking at a catchment, you're talking about developments in the whole borough, are you?
Specifically for the SIL non-parish funding, it has to come from the non-parished areas.
Which is, everything around, around the Woodthorpe area. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Are there any other questions? Just to comment, just to thank Lewis for the work that he does on this and the latter report which includes 106 as well. So keeping track of all those is quite difficult. I'd really urge councillors in non-parish areas to look for infrastructure projects and put them forward. You know, this money is there to mitigate some of the increased activity and need in areas. And I know I don't want to put work on your shoulders, Lewis, but I know he's always willing to talk to people about a possible project and whether it actually fits the criteria or whether it should be met somewhere else. And I think you do send out annually, don't you, Lewis, a notice saying that applications are open. So
yes, we do, yeah.
You know, if you've got development, please look at whether you can use some of that SIL funding. It does make a difference. As Linda and I know, we've had some of it. So And it's nice to show the public that what they're getting back for new development as well. So thank you very much indeed. So can we approve those? I was just going to move on, and we need to approve the recommendation for a 4-week public consultation on the shortlisted SIL projects from the neighbourhood funding. Can I propose that? So seconded. Is that agreed? Lovely. Thank you very much indeed. Right. So now we're moving on to, RIPA, Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act 2000 Annual Audit. Are you doing that? Who's doing that? Oh, you're doing that one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, members. I'm very pleased to be able to present the results of the annual Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act audit. As members will no doubt recall, codes of practice that are issued under that particular piece of legislation dictate that as a body with investigatory powers, which the Council is, we must have a policy that deals with RIPA and our usage of it. And our policy states that every year a report will be brought to Cabinet to look at our RIPA usage and whether there is any changes that are required to the policy. As an extremely brief reminder, if any investigations are undertaken by the Council that involve covert direct surveillance of somebody, a RIPA authorisation must be obtained in order to undertake that particular surveillance. There is a process that needs to be gone through, and there is ultimately judicial oversight of that. Due to the serious crime threshold, which needs to be reached in order to get a RIPA authorisation, the Council deal with very few investigations that meet that. Does not, however, mean that we shouldn't take our responsibilities seriously or evidence our commitment to ensure that we do comply with the Act. I can report that there were no RIPA authorisations for 24-25. Now fully in post with regards to the directors, who are the Council's authorising officers. Training was delivered to those officers in July of this year. There is RIPA training available on the intranet for any officers whom would be involved in investigations. That is due to be refreshed next year, although there's been no changes necessarily to the law. The Council is also subject to external inspections. The Investigatory Powers Commissioner's Office does hold inspections. We had our last one in 2023, and so we will probably be due another one next year, which will no doubt be a desktop exercise as such. The Council's policy remains fit for purpose at this time. It does not require any changes, and I'd like to thank you for your time and ask you to just to note the contents of the report that deals with it in a little bit more detail. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions on the... Yes, Marge.
Not a question, just a comment that I'm really pleased that you've noted that WISE will need to adhere to our RIPA concerns and conditions. Thank you.
Absolutely. Are there any other questions? So I'll move that we note the report. Can that be agreed, please? Thank you very much. Now, is this where we move? I think we do. We're going to item 8 ahead of item 7, and item 8 is the 5-year housing land supply assessment for 2025.
Thank you. Yes, the reason for switching these two reports around is because the item 7 reports the conclusions of item 8, so it makes sense to consider them in this order. So in relation to the 5-year housing land supply, this report sets out the Council's latest position, which is at the 31st of March 2025. And local authorities are required under the National Planning Policy Framework to update their 5-year housing land supply on an annual basis. The methodology for undertaking the 5-year land supply is included within the appendix and is largely informed by a joint methodology for undertaking the Council's Strategic Housing Land Availability Assessment, which was first published in 2020 along with Broxtowe, Erewash, Nottingham City and Rushcliffe. So the intention is that we have a common methodology which is very robust and transparent and applicable across that wider area. The key paragraph of the report to draw your attention to is paragraph 1.8, which reports the conclusions for the current year. So the 5-year housing land supply assessment shows that against the housing target as calculated, the council does not have a 5-year land supply plus the 5% buffer which is required. The council has a 3.73-year supply, and that equates to an undersupply for 846 homes. This is a significant decrease from the previous year's figure, which was 6.19 years supply. And the main reason for this is due to the new standard method, which resulted in a significant increase in the number of dwellings to be delivered per year. It was previously 460 dwellings, and it's now 638 dwellings. The publication of the new standard method was one of the key reasons for the council's decision to cease preparation of the Greater Nottingham Strategic Plan and instead to progress the Gedling Local Development Plan. And it's very important that the council continues to allocate land for development through the preparation of its local plan to ensure an ongoing supply of housing land. So the proposal is to ask Cabinet to note the contents of the latest 5-year housing land supply assessment 2025. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments on that 5-year land supply? Clearly there's a lot of detail in the background papers which looks at the trajectories and the calculations on how that 5-year land supply was achieved. And obviously the explanation from the changes to the MPPF which have made our supply halve. So, no questions? Are we just being asked to note that one, Jo? Just being asked
That's
to...
correct, just to note.
Yes, just being asked to note that report. So I'll move that we note that report on the 5-year land supply. Is that approved? Thank you. This morning, so thank you very much for that. Right. You're still here for that. You've got another session, the monitoring report. Thank you. The authority monitoring report.
Thank you. Yes, this is another annual report and the latest version of the Council's Authority Monitoring Report covers the period April 2024 to March 2025. The requirement to publish the AMR nationally is covered by the National Planning Practice Guidance and it needs to demonstrate progress with local plan preparation, reporting activity relating to the duty to cooperate and showing how the implementation of policies in the local plan is progressing. And the latest AMR is attached as an appendix. So covering each of those topics in turn in terms of local plan delivery, all policies within the Aligned Core Strategy and the local planning document are being implemented. In terms of plan preparation, at the start of the monitoring period, the Council was preparing the Greater Nottingham Strategic Plan in conjunction with Nottingham City, Broxtowe and Rushcliffe. A publication draft plan had been consulted on for a 6-week period, which ended in December 2024. However, as mentioned earlier, the Council has since withdrawn from the preparation of the strategic plan and instead is commencing preparation of the Gedling Local Development Plan, which will cover both strategic and non-strategic matters. Consultation took place on an issues and options document since the close of the monitoring period, which ended on the 1st of September 2025. The Council continues to fulfil the duty to cooperate with neighbouring authorities, as explained in more detail in the Authority Monitoring Report. In relation to neighbourhood plans, all policies in the 4 neighbourhood plans within Gedling are being implemented. In relation to other guidance documents, including supplementary planning documents, during the monitoring period, we've published planning guidance on biodiversity net gain and also the design code framework, and that was in November 24. More recently, outside the monitoring period, we've published murals guidance and a shopfront SPD, as well as a position statement on grey belt. In terms of monitoring policies, indicators are included in the aligned core strategy, in the local planning document, and also within the sustainability appraisal document supporting both elements of the local plan. And those monitoring indicators are all covered by the authority monitoring report and grouped under a series of planning topics that are listed out in paragraph 1.10 of the report. There's a lot of detail there, and I won't pick out sort of certain indicators, but it's a detailed read picking up all of the monitoring of local plan policies. So the proposal is to ask Cabinet to note the contents of the latest authority monitoring report. Thank you.
That's it. Are there any questions or comments on the annual monitoring report? Viv?
I mean, just to say, it's a huge amount of work in a document like this. I mean, absolutely. And so thank you so much for all that hard work in terms of that. And I was particularly interested in our transport section in terms of looking at where we're going in terms of transport in the borough and what new developments. And I mean, like you say, it's very comprehensive. It's you know, it's very detailed. And I was trying to get to understand, but I suppose in terms of my own understanding, it still talks about a 0 park and ride facilities being granted during this monitoring period. I mean, is there a hope that one day we will have a park and ride scheme within the borough?
It's yes, it's still a proposal within the council's local planning document, and something that we're again looking at through the content of the local development plan as we prepare that document. So yes, there has been sort of schemes looked into, and subject to funding, it's one that there is general support for.
Well, that's very good to hear, because we are building lots of roads, but I think trying to look at some park and ride or other alternatives regarding buses, because that's all we seem to have in the borough on the whole. So that would be really good. Yeah, I'd really be in favour of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and clearly there is information about how people access work and leisure in terms of cycle use and car use and bus use. So that's useful information to back up any proposals that we've got as well. But the demographics are quite interesting. 20% increase in those aged 65 and over. So something again we have to bear in mind, because I think we're following the sort of national trend, aren't we, in terms of demographics and birth rates. So, but important for planning ahead in terms of facilities, education, health, and everything else. So I think again we're asked to note the monitoring report. Can I move that? Agreed. Thank you very much. Thanks very much, Joe. You can go and get a cup of tea now, I think. Thanks very much indeed. And I think it's you again, Lewis. Infrastructure funding statement. Again, an annual report that we get on what monies have been collected and expended and what's left in the pot, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so as Councillor Aldenworth alluded to there, this is the annual report for the infrastructure funding statement. The council have a legal duty under Regulation 121A of the Community Infrastructure Levy regulations to publicise its annual infrastructure funding statement before the 31st of December each year. The infrastructure funding statement provides a financial breakdown of planning obligations collected, expended and retained through the SIL and Section 106 agreements, as well as any forecast of any potential future spending priorities. This report covers the financial year from the 1st of April 2024 to the 31st of March 2025. It's split into 3 sections. So the first section consists of the SIL report. The second section is the Section 106 report. And then at the end is a statement of the infrastructure in the borough, which is planned or prioritised to be funded through developer contributions. And that's known as the infrastructure list. Developer contributions can include a wide range of infrastructure, such as healthcare, open space and affordable housing. And these types of infrastructure are administered and managed by Gedling Borough Council in its role as the local planning authority. But in areas with two-tier governance, such as a borough and a county council, both the borough council and the county councils are required to produce individual infrastructure funding statements. And as such, Nottinghamshire County Council are responsible for producing their own on education and transport contributions, and they're responsible for publishing that on their own website. The role of the infrastructure funding statement is to provide transparency for stakeholders and local residents regarding its collection and expenditure of planning obligations, but it also provides additional benefits in supporting and informing the wider planning framework by identifying infrastructure priorities for the council. Appendix A of the report contains the relevant information as prescribed by the Community Infrastructure Levy regulations. Again, similar to Joe, I'm not going to go through the whole document with you all, but the key figures set out are found on the summary table, which can be found on page 257 of your agenda packs. And in total, approximately £500,000 worth of SIL receipts were collected during the financial year. And at the end of 24-25, a total of approximately £2.5 million in SIL receipts were retained, of which approximately £2 million is to be spent on strategic infrastructure projects within the borough. Of the receipts collected during the reporting period, approximately £80,000 has been passed directly to local parish councils, and they spend those monies on localised infrastructure within the parished areas. And at the end of the financial year 2024-25, approximately £380,000 from the neighbourhood portion of the SIL has been awarded to fund 8 different infrastructure projects as were previously identified in the first item earlier on in this meeting. With regards to Section 106 obligations, approximately £1 million in capital contributions and approximately £170,000 in revenue contributions were collected during the financial year. And during the same period, approximately £500,000 was spent on infrastructure projects within the borough, and details of these can be found on page 274. At the end of the reporting period, a total of approximately £3.8 million in capital contributions and £700,000 in revenue contributions were retained by the council. And the infrastructure funding statement also includes data which has been gathered in relation to non-monetary contributions, such as affordable housing and local employment plans. Finally, a projection of future expenditure of developer contributions is set out in tables 17 and 18 of the report, but the recommendation is just that Cabinet notes the contents of the reports and agrees to it being publicised on the Council's website in accordance with Regulation 121A of the SIL regs. Thank you, and as always, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Lewis. Again, an annual report, and it's supported by a lot of information. Are there any questions or comments? No? So if I move that we note that and agree to the publication of the infrastructure funding statement for 24-25 as detailed in Appendix A, which will be available for public view. Can we agree that? Considered urgent? I have no items that are considered urgent, so with that, unless there's anything else, I'll close the meeting and wish you all compliments of the season and a very happy Christmas. Thank you.